welcome to ArcisFX Live.
Hello, everybody. So crypto's going to zero. Bitcoin's going to zero. That's all I got to say. All right. Have a nice weekend, everybody. Take care. All right. See ya. Right. Okay. We're going to get into all of that today. Mano, hello. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. MD. Right. There we go. That confused me. Okay. Great. Always first comment. Love it. Thank you. Right. So lots to cover today. This let's just see what we're going to try and cover. So I have some notes. So I have quite a few things, but let's just the state of things, two competing concepts. Will things be the same this bear cycle? Bitcoin dominance trending lower. What does that mean? And subconscious charting. So interesting things, but let's just have a look at the state of things today. Let's just bring up the charts. Okie dokie. If you've got any questions as well, obviously let us know and we'll get into that. So this chart is Bitcoin 2, and I'm only putting this up because I find it hilarious. It's just a funny chart. Now this was a really valid idea presented by one of our top crypto group members. But Bitcoin, so it was a really good setup. So we had this essentially this inverse head and shoulders forming, which was really well spotted by one of our group members, and it just rolled over, just embarrassingly so. And we've lost 89k. Now, why is 89k important? Right. Well, firstly, let's find the chart. Here we go. Right. No, that's not it. Here we go. Right. So, I'll find it in a minute. Right. 89k is important because 89k essentially means that now, unfortunately, we're going to get a wick because we've lost 89k. We're going to get a wick no matter what happens now on this monthly chart for the first time below this primary trend line for Bitcoin, which has been in place since March 2023. And we haven't had a wick. We haven't had a candle body close. We've had nothing, right? And it looks like we're guaranteed now because we've moved down to the current low of about 8619. We're going to get that wick now, which is a bearish signal. Now, a candle body close is a more bearish signal than that, but nonetheless, we haven't had that. Now, I just want to preface this with something. So this line is based on 2 points, right? 2 points, just 2 points. This candle close here back in February 13, and then the second point, this dip which occurred in August 15. All right, so it's a long time ago, right? I don't know if anyone remembers trading Bitcoin in 2015. I wasn't trading in 2015, but those are the 2 points for this line. Now, we could adjust the line to fit more snugly with these candles, but then, of course, those 2 pivot points, that's not the right word, these 2 points, connecting points would be slightly, wouldn't fit. But even if we did that, and we tidied this line up a little bit more flush to here, that's even more bearish for us up here, right? So this is not great. And obviously traders, investors, they all trade off signals, multiple signals, not one chart, right? Not one inverse head and shoulders, but several. But the higher time frames are ultimately what long-term investors will be looking at. And this one is not looking hot. Now, we were talking about over the last couple of weeks, few weeks, that, you know, if Bitcoin did tap 89k, gave us a very quick reversal, meaning we were well above 89k, maybe above 96 into December, Bitcoin still has a narrative for another move up from here. And of course, this could happen, right? Bitcoin can do anything it likes. It loves messing with people, right? And when you've got macroeconomic issues, you know, if they get resolved, then there can be a correction to the upside if the downwards momentum at the moment is not particularly natural. The issue is, of course, as we've talked about, as I've been talking about, we've had our bull run. The bull run is here, and if we look at this chart, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail, you can see that we're arriving at the point, the end of the bull year, December 2025, where previously we've had. Here you go. Here's December. I can't see what year that is. 2017. Here's December 2022. Here's January 15. There's all a bit of flexibility. Excuse me. So here's December 13, and then we have the rundown. Now you can see on the RSI, instead of this time moving up to howdy partner, is Arcis drone a real thing? Are you? Is that a real person? Does someone want to enlighten me? Okay. But it's like, is Arcis drone a real thing, or is it a bot? Right? Because it sounds like we've got a cowboy with us, which is a great thing, of course. It's me, laugh out loud. Well, who's me? Is that James? It's so confusing. Anyway, so as I was saying, so previous cycle tops have coincided, of course, with a peak of this upper trend line with the RSI. We haven't had that this time. Now we can get into a conversation. Oh, that's great. Thanks, James. Okay. We haven't had a great, thanks for being here, mate. Thanks for your support. We haven't had that yet. Now we can have a conversation about that another time, about ultimately the law of diminishing returns, and how, as we've seen with these RSI patterns, that of course each cycle we haven't peaked as high. Still very impressive over bought conditions, but this time we haven't done that. And the thing is, when you have when you have these very strong run-ups, it will push the RSI, even on the higher time frames, into cooking, essentially, into these seriously overextended, oversold conditions on the relative strength index, right? But when you have a more sedate movement, and you can see this looks like, on the face of it, the longest bull run we've had, right? The RSI doesn't get as hot so quickly because it's a more tepid increase, a more gentle increase. And even though Bitcoin's gains are still amazing compared to other assets or commodities or stocks or whatever, it's been a lot more, it's been calmer. And we've all been waiting for that blow off top where everyone's like, oh my God, Bitcoin at 400K, wow. But it hasn't happened. Now, you can look at, as we said, the economic conditions in the world this year have been terrible, which would, again, give you a muted potential bull run. Just like the last one, we could argue, I would argue that it was muted because of the pandemic. Hi, Lola, good to see you. It was muted because of the pandemic. And now we haven't had a great 2025 either. So maybe in 2025, we would have had that blow off top. This move here would have pulled us up here. But you can see the RSI is different this time. It's different. It's been more sedate. It's been cooking like an asset, which is just, moving up quite steadily, but it hasn't really blown up very quickly. It's been a steady increase since the middle of the middle of 2023. So, but the RSI doesn't lie, and ultimately we're coming back down to this pocket again, which is the start really of, well, the end of the bear cycle. If we touch it, remember, you might look at this, go, well, it's almost there. But this is the monthly chart, so it can take a significant amount of time for it to come down here. So if you imagine it starts to approach this line, the last quarter, the third or fourth quarter of 2026, then that makes sense, and then we might start having a recovery. But this chart underscores that 2026 is going to be a bear market, right? And everything we're seeing so far, losing all the key levels, is suggesting that. Now the question is, what will altcoins do? So altcoins haven't had their run up, yet, and we had some nice action. This was the November election, right? And but this is the interesting thing, right? I just wanted to just go through to this, right? So we've only just tapped this, and you would expect, and previously this level, I mean, last cycle, this was tapped at the back end of 2020, which would have been the equivalent of 2024, right? And that's when we expect the explosion of altcoins. Now that started to happen with the election in the United States last November, but you'll notice that the launching off point for this was actually not as low as it has been previously for the beginning of altcoin season. You see, it all starts from this level, and we tapped that with the October crash, and we've got all this headroom. Now that doesn't mean that altcoins can't just die and just continue down here, but it would be a very, very strange and significant sell-off for a market which in isolation outside of Bitcoin hasn't yet popped, hasn't yet had the amazing gains which we typically want to see from the collection of assets which make up the crypto market, which is a combination, of course, of the high caps, and then we've got the mid caps, and then we've got the crazy area, with all the low caps and the uber low caps and all these crazy new projects which have no meaning, right? But they can shift in crazy amounts of movement. Now we've had things like ZEC, Zcash, and so forth, and a few assets start to move, but we haven't had that cascade yet, right? So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens next year. Now, right now, I think me and James, I think we haven't had a proper conversation about this, but just through our interactions in the group, in the private group, we've been trying to figure out exactly what this is going to look like. And I think we are both relatively on the same page in terms of we feel that the altcoins aren't necessarily this time going to get the sell-off, the significant sell-off, as you can see from the in the bear market like we've had, because it's happened, and we're right at the bottom, and we might have Bitcoin essentially, if we go back to this chart, we might have Bitcoin not, whilst it's difficult to say Bitcoin's had a sedate bull run, but if you've traded the previous ones, it is a sedate bull run, right? And which makes sense for an asset which is maturing and it's becoming quite big in terms of market cap. So we might have Bitcoin coming down. I think 70K, 69K now makes perfect sense. We'll go into that in a minute, but even lower, right? And it does that in such a way which ultimately lets the altcoin market flow, and there may be a bit of a decoupling, right? And I think there comes a time that the only guaranteed things in economics, in markets, and the development of new and digital assets, and where the attention goes, like in AI and NVIDIA and all that kind of stuff, the only thing which is constant is change and forward movement and development. And with the momentum behind some of the legislation and the attempt to, like my country, all countries, Europe, my country is not doing a great job at this, but they are laying the groundwork for stable coins, the digital pound, the digital, all of this, and all countries are doing this. And what that might mean is that we have a completely different market structure where the Bitcoin monarchy disappears, as does happen with time, right? I mean, my country obviously has a monarchy, but other than being a tourist attraction and an arguable waste of taxpayer money, then what do they give us? And Bitcoin ultimately may just become its own thing. The older statesman of the crypto market sits kind of next to gold on its throne, but it's really just a figurehead, and the rest of the market starts doing what it wants. And maybe Ethereum will be the king. I currently call it the queen at the moment, so I suppose it'd have to have a sex change, but that's perfectly fine. But it could be, you don't know, it could be Zcash, it could be something, whatever, leading the market, whatever the next technology thing is, and wherever the market lands. So the joke at the start, obviously, about Bitcoin's going to zero, crypto's going to zero, I think it needs to be immense caution, right? Immense caution. But at the same time, we do have a disparity. We have Bitcoin clearly giving us lots of bearish signals and all that, losing the 50 weekly, all this kind of stuff, right? Losing everything. I mean, I haven't got it today, but there was a charting group which somebody posted. I think it, again, is one of our top crypto group members, 777. And I think by the time I got to it, just a few hours later, it had invalidated, right? And that's nothing to do with the chart. It was a great chart. But so Bitcoin is really struggling. But this is it's a conflicting picture about the potential for the rest of the crypto market. So I have lots of investments, and if we have a bear year and the altcoin market goes down, goes with it, then, and we break these lines, then I'm pretty screwed for some of the positions which I can't get to. A lot of the positions I'm still in control of, right? So I am, and am I taking trades? Yes. So I am looking for currently, just to highlight, I'm still looking for my GOAT support buy. Now, I did get an alert on this earlier today, but it hasn't quite filled on the exchange, right? And there's I'm taking another position on, just to give you an insight into what I'm doing, into where's NACA. Naka. What it's just a fantastic name, crypto, especially if you're British. Where's Naka? Let me see if I can find it. There it is. There's Naka. And again, I'm waiting for a. So this is an investment position for a couple of some parts of my portfolio, right? It's just a no-brainer. Just accumulate at this lower level, right? And if we lose it, just get out. No big deal. So I'm looking to accumulate at around 0.500. I have a couple of pots getting ready to be on the exchange, and just to zoom in, you can see we're not quite there yet, but could be very easily tap it very soon. So I am waiting for that. I'm still making some long plays, but the trading conditions for anything other than hard support buys is not great at the moment. And the same with GOAT. This will be a leverage play, a low leverage play, just buying support, and just even a little bounce here is like 30% with a bit of leverage. You can have 100% trade out of this. So I'm looking for that. So I am taking some positions still, but I'm not trading any of the more traditional setups at the moment. And unfortunately, so if you just go through some of the altcoin setups, I mean, just to highlight USDT dominance as well. Look, this is breaking out. This is not good for trading. It's not good for trading, right? It's essentially people putting this is Bitcoin. This is altcoins being converted into USDT, essentially sitting on the exchanges, right? And then maybe that will be, and so we're not getting the good signals, right? This is what we want. This is not what we want, right? Great altcoin trading, not great altcoin trading. But this is, so let's just have a look at some of the setups from yesterday, if I've still got them open. A bit disorganized. So here we go. So yeah, these are, so just for highlighting. So this is SEI still in play, this support buy, right? Because again, I'm trying to, when I do altcoin gems, we're trying to give you a variety of setups. And if the market reverses, then of course you've got something to trade. But SEI is at support, but it's losing it at the moment. So that's still in play. This more intraday approach, it's 2 hours, so it sounds a bit stupid saying on the intraday, but the shorter time trades, this is invalidated, right? And you can see it's really struggling. So this is completely invalidated. I suppose if we draw this down here, it's here, but it's like, this is support. We needed that confluence. So this particular setup, that's pretty much toast for now. So bye-bye. Right. And I said that in the video yesterday, right? Some of these you're going to have to bin because the market's terrible. Again, the idea, this DCR was a premise with DCR to try and buy support. It's rolling over. Now, of course, there's a support buy opportunity coming up now with DCR, right? So with these setups, you can trade them any way you see fit, right? So you get the chart, scan the QR code, whatever, have the chart. And then if the original premise of the trade invalidates, then, you've got a decent chart with some still trading potential. So now DCR is still in play, but it's a lower support entry and you have to adjust appropriately. So if Bitcoin, say, comes back down to, I can't remember what the next level is, we're looking at in a minute, 70K or 76K or whatever, then this will be a good buying opportunity if we get a bounce from there, right? So some things are still in play. This is soft. This is gone. This is done, right? Soft is done. This is invalidated. The whole premise has been invalidated because it's just couldn't hold it. It was looking for Bitcoin. Everyone was hoping that Bitcoin would reverse at 89K. It did not, and this is what's happened. So soft, bye-bye. It threw it in the bin, right? And I said this yesterday in the video. Go and watch it and check, right? XMR. So XMR, was doing really well, pretty solid. Had a nice solid uptrend with a break into the next range. And again, we're losing key support, and that's not happening. So there's still obviously a play with with XMR, Monero, because obviously people are looking at it to trade. But right now, it's going to be, you need to wait for a breakout of this upper resistance level, right? Because we need bullish confirmations. So really difficult situations at the moment. And again, this is a fringe Bitcoin chart idea, which I just threw out everyone yesterday, and even that's invalidating, right? The Livermore accumulation cylinder. Look that up. It's quite an interesting conversation. APT, right? This was not in an altcoin gems yesterday. This again was one of our nice top crypto analysts in the group, besides James and myself, of course. This is APT. I think originally he shared it yesterday. As a long setup, but I've co-opted it. So you've got a long play here if we get a breakout of this diagonal trend line, but you can see it's turning bearish. It's a descending channel, and this is the most likely play here. We get a short play or we break from this descending channel with probabilities, with all the moving average offering us nice support, and then we take profits, just shy of where the October crash was. So we've got stuff to do, right? And any setups you see in altcoin gems, just turn them on their head and you've got something to trade, right? But difficult. Now our Doge short, right, from altcoin gems a couple of weeks ago, and even though this video, I did have an altcoin, a Doge long, because again, if the market reverses, we need something to trade. But Doge short is playing out quite nicely. We've moved down to this lower range, so it looks like again we could be coming down here. So well done if you got in on this. I missed it because I was asleep, I think. So I didn't get in on this. But really, if you got in here when we originally posted this a couple of weeks ago, then it would be a really good place, really good play. Again, now let's talk about Bitcoin dominance, right? Let's talk about Bitcoin dominance. And I was mentioning this today. And me and James were talking about this briefly. So if everyone's selling Bitcoin, this is naturally going to go down, right? Now, traditionally, it's a good signal for altcoins that this is heading downwards, because it typically means when Bitcoin is bullish, because people aren't selling Bitcoin, that people are just entering their altcoin positions, right? Now, you have to look at this now with a little bit of suspicion, right? Because this could just be coming down because Bitcoin is shrinking, like not like in a noticeable way, right? Just like, you know, a small selling activity with Bitcoin, given it's so big, can do this, right? But the fact that it's not pumping and it's not going up means that we're not really having a lot of selling activity either, which lends to the fact that people are still looking potentially for buying opportunities with the altcoins, right? And potentially depegging. So this is the current situation we've got at the moment, right? But let's jump into there's only one chart really. So, yeah, so this is Bitcoin 3-day. So 74K, right? Yeah, MD. So 74K. Let me just put that up. So I'm not being very good with the comments today. So Bitcoin to 75K. It's the next support level for sure. So, and there's a range though. Let's just find the range. There is another chart. Here it is. This is the better chart. So this is Bitcoin 2-day, which makes it a little bit clearer where we are. So previous tap of this diagonal resistance, which we lost, is essentially 975K. This is the previous all-time highs of 69K from the bull run here, right? So this area is significant, especially in the context of like bear markets and stuff, right? So it's a very confusing picture at the moment, all these sorts of levels, but there will be people showing up here. And because Bitcoin has managed, but if by the time it gets down here, which I mean, I can't see many people are going to be coming in here. This is where they want to 75K is when they're going to start coming in, right? So yes, spot on, MD. I would agree with that. That's when people are going to start showing up. And then you've got a bit of distance from all these moving averages and everything which we've lost for buyers to come in. Because when we're looking at charts like this, again, just try not to laugh at me too much. But when we lose like the 50, that's not the one I want. When we use like the 50, you know, it's very difficult for bulls to come in just as you've had a candle body close just underneath such a significant moving average, because you're just running straight into resistance. I mean, it's just basic trading, right? You don't enter just below resistance. So bulls are always going to want to have a bit of distance, right? And then it comes back down to the really straightforward argument, like when are the sellers going to stop selling? They're going to stop selling as we approach this area. So this is the next possible bounce point. And 89K was only a very important line in the sand because of other trend lines on different time frames. Not that we were like, well, it makes sense for Bitcoin to bounce here, because if you look at this chart at the moment, then anyone would say that, well, this is the best area to come in on for support based on these areas. But we were talking about 89K being significant simply because if we lose it, it really does increase the narrative for a bear year next year, or at least a bear couple of quarters. But I don't think it's going to be like Bitcoin just goes all the way down. Obviously, we could have a recovery rally to retest this. This is perfectly natural. So we're not going to be like, this is it now, right? There will be good opportunities. We may see stuff like this, right, happening. So this is the whole deal. But yes, ND 75K, 73K, they're the next lines in the sand, and they're better opportunities, they're better areas to come in on because, as we just talked about, because you've got buyers will have a lot of distance from a lot of these key levels which have been lost, and it gives them an opportunity to take back control from the sellers. Because as an example, who is going to sell Bitcoin at 76K? Right? I wouldn't, because we're right next to support, right? So this is what we need to think about. And it's a very, very confusing picture. And I must admit, I mean, and we look at this cloud formation again, we look at this, you know, we will come straight through the cloud, but 74K is here, right, in between those two areas. So I think this is what we're going to see. But don't count Bitcoin out just yet, because there will be a recovery bounce at some point to check all these levels. and that could happen at any time. But we're not seeing, it's very weak. When it arrived at 89K, I haven't got that 2-hour chart anymore because I've just thrown it out. But when it arrived at 89K, it was nothing. The bounce was nothing. It's like it meant nothing, right? And that's a warning sign. So you always need to pay attention to what it's interacting to. But yeah, so 74K for sure. But let's have a look what else was on the agenda. Let's have a look at some of the comments first. My third and worst. Oh, right. Yeah. Lola, your first bull run. Yeah. Let's have a look. Thanks for the show, Paul. Do you think today will... do you think if today has a massive wicket close, it's worth a dabble, a baby one? Simple answer, no. We need to see a reversal pattern. We need to see divergence. We need to see all of that combined at a key level, right? And this is a key level, right? Otherwise, it's just going to roll over, right? So never make a... Sometimes people look at me and say, well, how often do you trade? Well, that obviously depends on how busy I am. But the reality is that most of the time, right, I like things exactly where I want them. Now, that might be that, well, duh, obviously. Yeah, but the thing is, a lot of traders don't do that, right? A lot of traders will be like, right, it's come down enough. I suspect, I think, I feel that it's going to reverse. But then there's just red candles. There's no reversal pattern. There's no divergence. There's no indication. There's no volume. There's no indication that it's going to stop. And until we see that, right, I wouldn't be suggesting to take any plays. Now, I'm not suggesting there's not altcoin setups. As I said, I am taking altcoin positions, but I'm being very selective. And I'm choosing positions which can be managed easily. Hard, long-term support buys are manageable. Because if they go lower, you're going to get that bearish retest, especially if you're going to enter negative price discovery in an altcoin, and therefore you can control it. So you don't have to stop investing, you don't have to stop trading, but you have to be very mindful of the situation with Bitcoin, and it's not particularly clear yet. So we do need to wait. And unfortunately, when we get these red candles, and we just get every day there's a new level being lost, difficult trading. It's difficult trading for sure, right? But here's the thing. I make more money in a bear market than I make in a bull market if you take away long-term investments, right? If you move that to one side, right, I make more money in a bear market. It's just leverage trading, futures trading. It's just so much easier, right? It's just so much easier because there's more scenarios which force the price action down than there is make it up. That's just the reality of crypto trading or trading volatile assets. It's just the way it goes and the way the money flow works. So it is a waiting game, my friend, Control or Alpha. It is a waiting game at the moment. And of course, if you're doing intraday stuff and you want to take some short scalps and stuff, then that's fine. You know, zoom into Bitcoin, zoom into the 30-minute chart, find some reverse patterns, find some divergence and trade off them. But it's going to be TP1, not TP2 time. And it's going to be just get in, get out, take your money and go, right? But now we've lost 89K. That was the last kind of idea. The last idea was like, we get a bounce off 89K. And then we enter altcoin positions and we get that movement because it's a significant support level, right? At least, you know, in terms of the bulls versus the bears battle. Now we got to wait for 73K ultimately, right? And certainly if you're like a midterm holder, like more like me, and you know, and you prefer a lot of confluence across Bitcoin and the altcoins. So yeah, I hate saying that. I hate saying that. But at the moment with this uncertainty, you've got to protect your capital, right? Now, there's plenty of plays. There are short plays. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. But right now, I would say that we're looking more for shorts, right? So next altcoin gems, maybe we'll be looking maybe more of a 50-50 split between longs and shorts, and look at it that way. But you know, any of these long setups which I posted like over the last couple of weeks with altcoin gems, some of which have been great, some of which have given us assets. They haven't quite met our targets yet, but they've had some significant movement. So, but you can trade them short, right? If you see like if Paul said this was the area to come in on the retest, but if you lose that retest area for a long play, then guess what? It turns into a short play, right? So take the short play if Bitcoin's free falling, right? Because that just makes sense. But yeah, so it's really difficult. But let's just see what I want to talk about today. So two competing concepts, right? Now, what do I mean by that, right? So if you look at the last two Bitcoin update videos, and thank you if you those of you who are watching, like, subscribe, comment, etc. The one last week at the start of this week which is doing pretty well, which was obviously is 2026 going to be a bear year, not hyperbole, right? Fully backed up with charts and TA, right? And just the reality of the crypto market's 4-year cycle. But then the week before, I was talking about is fear the signal, right? And how, when everything looks like it's falling apart, that is the time to buy. Now, that doesn't mean you just buy Bitcoin now, right? You have to wait till the next line in the sand, right? 89K was that, and now it's 73K, 75K, right? So we have to wait. But there is if we look at the next few months as potentially going to be quite bearish for Bitcoin, right? I don't think it's going to be like Bitcoin is completely, just selling off, but we have to it's difficult to say what's going to happen right now. But if you ask yourself, what does Bitcoin have to do in order for more people to enter long plays with Bitcoin? Well, it has to do a lot. It has to retake so many levels, so many moving averages, and even if it retakes like the weekly 50 MA, right, which is a significant one, even if it gets a candle body close next month in December above that primary trend line we were looking at the start. I'll just put that chart while I'm talking, if I can find it. Let's have a look. That's the funny chart. That's the cloud. There we go. So, even if we get a green candle, even if we get like a fresh all-time high, right, in December, which is, I can't see that, right? You're still going to have this wick. And this wick is the first wick we've seen since March 2013, right? And that's very difficult for you to sit in your boardroom and tell your investors and everything that Bitcoin's a good buy. And then we're like, well, hang on, Jason. But we've got an all-time high. Bitcoin's just put an all-time high. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also, but David, you've got a different slant on this. Well, David, yes, we've had this candle body close, or we've had this wick below this primary trend line. So there's an argument there. There's a dispute about what you do. And when there is uncertainty, people don't take trades, right? They don't invest. Now, this isn't going to be like MicroStrategy or Strategy, is going to dump all of their Bitcoin. They're trying to accumulate. It just means they're going to be buying more at the next level, right? There's no sign of that. But we're dealing with some pretty serious situations around the world. And when we're getting these signals from Bitcoin, it's just difficult to see a recovery from here, right, without further downside. So obviously, this is 65K, looks pretty ripe here, right? 69K, the previous 69 was the previous top. So, 75, 73 are the next lines in the sand. But below that, we have lower levels of 69K. And then if we look at the candles from here, 61K, that's certainly in play. 69K is definitely in play. This is kind of what we're talking about now. So there are conflicting concepts for sure. And there's a lot of uncertainty, of course, as we talked about with altcoins. Now, if you remember last week, we were talking about Ethereum. Look where we are now. I think Ethereum, we were talking about 2,800. And look, here we are, right? And we're halfway now back into the pattern, and we're back where we were essentially in June, right? So things aren't great right now. And you can see, if you just look at Ethereum, how much work it's got to do, and all these sellers just stacking up at the top of this thing. It's not pretty. It's not good. And Ethereum is a good barometer for the rest of the market as well. So it's not looking great, but I do think we're going to have some surprises. I do think it's not going to be as clean cut as Bitcoin's just going to be selling off for a year. I don't think it's going to be as simple as that. And I don't think it's going to be as simple as that in terms of what altcoins are going to do either, right? Because there are independent projects. They have their own use cases. Ethereum is an independent entity, and it drives a lot of the crypto market, as the Solana, etc. So it's like there's a lot of stuff going on, right? And you look at these charts, right? Bitcoin's up here, right? But the rest of the market is down here. The other thing I just want to talk about very briefly is subconscious charting. This was an interesting thing I got into today with, again, someone in the group. Now, we all do this, right? We will all chart something, and we'll adjust it to our bias, right? So here's an example. So somebody might be really upset about this candle, right? And then maybe they'll try and find a way to make it work. So they might do this, right? And this is obviously a really simple explanation, right? And then there may be obviously another level which makes sense down here. There isn't, but they might find a premise, right? They might find an idea to move that trend line, and then it's like, oh no, everything's fine now. But it's not, right? It's not fine in any way, shape, or form. I need to put that line back now. Come on, TradingView, do me a favor, help me out. Come on, there we go. So yeah, there is, when we're trying to find all these patterns and these bullish scenarios, and you'll find yourself charting something which on the face of it looks like that's okay, and then you'll move that line down to see, oh, that worked, and it just doesn't. So we have to be very, I think I'm being very grumpy in our private group at the moment. I think I'm being very, very grumpy. I am like, this is a bear, this level's been lost, this level's been lost. But there's a reason why I'm like that, because I know that, and James will know the same thing, that our job as Sherpas, shall we say, as Sherpas to these markets, right, for all of you, it's to not just tell you what's going on with the charts, not just to tell you what positions we're taking and how we're approaching things and give you the market weather and give you all the analysis you need to trade successfully independently. We also have to deal with your emotions. We also have to deal with how you're feeling, and we have to orientate you based on our experience to how you're supposed to be feeling and how you're supposed to be approaching the market. And I do not want to single people out because we're all like this. But I think this comment by our good friend Control Alpha, right? Do you think it's today as a massive wicket close is worth a dabble, right? That is a trap we all fall into sometimes, right? And it's not to say that there's not a scenario where that could play out, but the issue is, of course, we have to be realistic about what we're seeing, right? And we can't be like, oh, it's fine, because you can rationalize it. You can say, well, Bitcoin was back down here in April, right? That was only a few months ago. I mean, and then everything was bullish then, right? But it's a different scenario now, right? We're above the 50. We're above this primary trend line with lots of distance. So this is something, this kind of cognitive bias, which we have as traders, right? I mean, you got to look at the facts. Every 4 years there's a bear year with Bitcoin, and that has been the case since it started. Is that going to be the case forever? Maybe not. Is this bear cycle this next year going to be the first year where the whole bear year concept starts to disappear? Because ultimately the bull cycle this time will start a little bit earlier, right? And it was, it's been 2.5 years. It's been almost 3 years essentially where Bitcoin's been in an uptrend, and that's fantastic. So even if we do just have 1 year of bear market, we've had more bull activity and less consolidation from Bitcoin than we've had in the past. I remember during the pandemic just waiting for Bitcoin to retake 10K again, and we were saying, well, if we break 10K, that's the signal. So it's, we have to just realize this is the situation. It's not a bad thing, right? As I've talked to you about, there's always opportunities. Short trading the crypto market is so much easier than intraday long stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it's so much easier, right? So all of us will have investments which potentially are not where we want them to be. But at the end of the day, we trade what we see. And if we are looking at the market with rose-tinted glasses right now, and we're trying to take long plays when we shouldn't be, at least without confirmation, then we're going to get burned. Right, and that's just it, right? So we just need to figure out what's going on with the markets. I mean, I don't want to go political, but talk about the whole further around these stimulus checks in the United States, which Presidente Trump decided to talk about. Now, that would be great for the American people, not so much for debt. But here's the thing: the mentality would be some people in the United States right now, right, would be potentially spending money they don't have on the presumption that they're going to get a stimulus check, and which I think the earliest possible time that you're going to get that is middle of 2026, right, based on current things, right? But there's not much support for it, so people are essentially spending money which, before there's any confirmation or any understanding of the reality behind what needs to happen in the federal government for that to occur. Right, and what are the details? Who does it apply to? Right. So I think it's something we need to be paying attention to. But at the end of the day, you want to be the sort of person which waits till the check is on your table, right, before you even think about what you're going to buy with it, right, or where you're going to invest it. And the best advice would be to wait till it's cashed, right, or wait till it's gone through, right. And we can't be looking at this red candle on Bitcoin and just be like, it's a bear trap. We've got no evidence of that yet, right? So this is essentially, the message I want to kind of convey today, because it is very challenging at the moment. But yeah, let's just a quick check if there's anything else to talk about before we disappear. I'm very grateful for everyone's support today. Lola, Dana, Control Alpha, always thank you so much. It's great to have you here. Emily, of course, and the Arcis drone, which I think James must be flying by remote control or something. I don't know what's going on with that. And MD, of course. Can some next Friday see if somebody can beat MD to the first comment? Right? I don't think you can do it. I think he waits to make me feel good, right? And so I don't think you can beat, but see if anyone can beat MD to the top comment next time, next lesson. But any next session, any questions, let me know. Right, what's this? Wait for the stock. Stochastic, yeah, okay, stochastic RSI to cross any time now. Okay, yeah, for sure. I will try. Lola, you will not. MD is MD's two on it. Apt APT selling. Let's have a look. I'm getting confused. Apt selling. Apt sell. Right. Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Well, not yet. You need confirmation. So again, this is what I was talking about. This is the bullish line, right? Now this wasn't an altcoin gem yesterday. This is a private group. Thanks to somebody else in the group who's fantastic. So we got a breakout. Then that's your long entry, right? But now because we haven't had that yet, this pocket here, that's your short entry, right? So if we get a move up from here, you can short it from there. That's safe. That's sure, especially with all these moving averages. Or you have to wait for a breakdown and then come in on the bearish retest. So not now, but maybe in a minute, right? If we get that, so you need to wait. We need that confirmation, right? Because if this just taps down, it could just come back in, right? So this is where you short it from at essentially around $3, right? Around $3, right? So $3 is a good shorting opportunity for APT. And if we get a break of 2.3, 2.38, 2.4, right? Get a break of 2.4, then wait for a move down, a significant move down, and then don't feel singled out. And then there's your entrance. So again, this is what I'm trying to talk about. With volatile assets, you can't just jump in, right? You've got to wait for the confirmation. Now, confirmation for you might be different from confirmation for me, but you need to be acting on some form of confirmation. So that's why you can trade this any way you see fit, long or short, right? But it's looking like it's a short play. We've got a descending triangle. So that'll be the lines in the sand. And you can do that for any of these assets. But no, please don't feel singled out, not rightly so, because the reality is that I'm saying this because I've done all of that, right? And I still do that. We all make mistakes, and this is where the experience comes from, right? And even the most proficient traders, right, still, like my mind, I'm going to be honest with you, my mind, because there's a lot of responsibility trying to support other traders, right? And I've been doing this for quite a while now, and we want to get it right, right? Me and James, we want to get it right for you, right? But a lot of that comes with some tough love and just be like, this is the reality. And it's not saying that we are beyond any of that, kind of just entering assets without confirmation. It's not like that. But it's an important message to say, because I say this to myself, right, all the time, because I am a human and I need to control it. So no one's singled out, because we're all in the same category. We're traders, we're human, we're emotional beings, and we have to regulate ourselves, and we have to remind ourselves of how we're supposed to be approaching the market. And my head is spinning. It is spinning with all of this information we're trying to process. There's so much this year which has come out. There's so much things which have happened, from the government shutdown to the trade wars, all of which have not been resolved properly yet, right? Interest rate cuts, Jerome Powell potentially being given the boot, all of these things. It's so difficult to navigate in a growing, institutionally adopted crypto space, trying to figure out what the next year is going to look like. And sometimes it's just going to be, this is a scenario, this is kind of where we're thinking of, and we have to approach it in the same way. So here's the thing, right? So okay, we can probably finish on this. Let me just look at this comment. The 1 week and 2 weeks to go across both at the same time. You can see there's still potential for a recovery. Look, Bitcoin is a very funny beast in many respects, and But there's a video. Let me just show you this. I showed you this the other day. Let's just pop this up.
Hey everyone, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO here. I'm in the halls of Congress, back again, pushing for market structure legislation. We've seen a lot of progress since I was last here. We've now seen draft text shared by the Senate Ag Committee. Senate Banking is also working nights and weekends to get the next iteration of their text out. So we've got a good chance, I think, of a markup for this bill in December, hopefully get it to the president's desk shortly thereafter. This would be a big milestone to get crypto unlocked with clear rules in the US, which would benefit all companies. But of course, Coinbase wants to be the top crypto company, so we're working hard on product in the meantime as well. And December 17th, we've got our product event, which you can tune in on the live stream to see everything we've been building in the second half of this year. Thanks all of you for continuing to show up and contact your representatives and keep pushing for clear rules for crypto in the United States. We will keep doing our part here as well to try to make it happen. Thanks so much.
I have to say, I see. I don't know how you guys feel watching the Coinbase CEO and someone like talking about that, but honestly, like, do not believe a word he says in terms of interest. He's in, I don't know the guy, but their interest is not our interests, right? I need to make that clear. And when we dig into the cryptocurrency, the crypto regulation, which is a good thing on principle, right? It doesn't really do anything for anyone right yet. It's just, they're just trying to essentially close the door on the Gary Gensler area, right? And get some legislation, common sense legislation, but it's not clear yet how it's going to impact everyday people and retail investors and traders or the markets in themselves. And when I see someone sitting up there saying everything's good, everything's fine, well, what do you care about? You care about your stock price, right? You care about your stock price in the face of a potential bear market. Like why you? So you got to look at everything really skeptically, right? And I'm not dissing anything, but I'm just, the crypto legislation on the face of it is like, yay, US has passed crypto legislation, awesome. But then read it, right? It is closing loopholes. It is making things clearer. It is paving the way for what is to come. But it is what is to come which is the most relevant and impactful, which hasn't yet happened yet, right? This is just the yellow brick road being laid, right? We've still got to walk the perilous path. I think this is the best way to. Don't get many Wizard of Oz references in crypto streams, but there you go. So that's my take on that. Yeah, let's have a look at MSTR quickly before we go. Again, still, you may be asking, what do I feel about it in terms of correlation? Me and James got into this in the member stream. I just don't know. I just don't know. Right. So you have to look, definitely, James had a video out today as well. If you haven't already seen that, check it out, right? We're just sorting out our schedule so we can get James back at the 4. So James released a great video earlier today, so please check that out, right? It'll give you more insights than I can into these traditional markets. It's just not the world I live in, and I learn a lot from James. So just for context, let's just make sure. So I'm not speaking from, but it's just in isolation. We are right at the bottom of support zone, right? So this is resistance. We're right at the bottom, right? So that would be, is there anything giving us any kind of, any suggestion that we're going to have a reversal? No. No divergence. Let's have a look at the RSI. You look, yeah, let's just move this to just a quick look at the daily chart. Yeah, so we're in oversold conditions, and probably across multiple time frames, but and this is what we're talking about with Bitcoin, right? We've lost this. We've got resistance just overhead. Now there is a channel you can trade off, but if you look at it closely, it's broken to the downside against probabilities, right? And that as a legitimate channel, right? And we've broken to the downside, so it's not looking strong. And when you see an asset of any kind entering support and just going straight through the support zone and then just off flashing bearish signals as it does it, right? We can say principally based on TA, right? 170 for MSTR is a logical place to buy, right? But that does not factor in the wider market and what's happening in the wider market at the moment, right? So entering a small position here, that would make sense, right? And it's perfectly manageable because if you break down, of course, you're going to get that. This is what we're talking about at the start. This is why I'm looking for support buys at the moment. But can I say to you that it's giving us signals that it's going to absolutely bounce from here? No, I can't say that. I can't say that at all. And again, look, here is what a bottoming pattern looks like, right? And that's what we need to see, right? Don't cross your fingers, right? If MSTR is going to reverse, you will see a reversal pattern because that's what traders need to see. You'll see something like this, right? And then you've got your double bottom with a higher low, and then you look to enter, or you wait for the break of the neckline of that, and then you wait to enter. You don't. What happens when you try and catch a knife? You get bloody, right? It's as simple as that. The money is made in the middle. So MSTR, great opportunity. In terms of we're at support, that's where you want to be buying, but you need to wait for confirmation. Otherwise, we're coming down, right? Because look, here's the 100% retracement level here, right, as well. And you could argue that this line here is a better place to accumulate back in the previous accumulation zone, right? And seeing as we're not looking too rosy as we approach the support zone. So that's my take on it. But please check out James's video from today. I don't know if he talks about this, but I presume to a degree. I haven't had a chance to fully catch up with it yet. But what I did see of it was really fantastic. So check out what he's got to say about this and pair that with just the basic TA. But I would suggest that, again, this is the whole thing, right? You want to level up as a trader, right? It can't be just, we've tapped this level, it's a buy, right? It needs to be, because this is not the bottom, like NACA and everything I'm looking at, it's the bottom, right? It's the bottom. Where this is not. So there's still levels below. So caution here, my friends. But reversal patterns are what you want to be paying attention to. You want to be looking for those W patterns, those double bottoms, those inverse head and shoulders. You want to be looking for divergence, higher highs, higher lows, change of character, all that kind of stuff, right? That's what you need to be paying attention to, right? Don't be the guinea pigs. Don't be the guinea pigs with these things. And it's exactly the same with Bitcoin right now. And we'll just put the chart up to, where is it? It's exactly with Bitcoin now. I mean, who's buying that? Right now, we need to see something else, right? And this is the most probable chart. Let's just find it where it is again. And this is likely. So wait to see our interactions between 75K and 73K. If we start seeing like more organic price movement, so we start seeing stuff like this, right? Retests of previous range, or maybe something like this, then this area becomes much more palatable, right? Because we're no longer catching a knife, right? We're just watching a sledge calmly come to a stop at the bottom of the hill, right? And that's an easier proposition because we start seeing all these different patterns. We see divergence, we see all these kind of things. So this is catching a knife. Avoid it. And again, if it reverses and does this, right, then that's fine. Short it from there. Right? And then that helps us as we approach this area, because then it's not coming down with as much velocity, right? Those the Jackie Chan movies where he'll fall through like seven of those kind of rain things which protects the cafes below and all kinds of stuff, and it just bounces through the fabric, and by the time he reaches the bottom, he's fine, right? If he doesn't have that, which Bitcoin doesn't at the moment, you're just gonna die on the concrete, right? And essentially, that's quite morbid, but that's what we need to think. So, all these red candles is a knife. Don't try and catch it, right? Wait for some green candles, wait for some structure, and then do that, right? But yes, we should be looking potentially for some short plays as well at the moment. Right, I don't quite. He don't care. Not his money. Wow. Yeah. Look, you try and get your head in the minds of the Coinbase CEO, of MicroStrategy, of whatever, of Binance. You try and get your heads in. You're not gonna come out with insights, because we can't. We're not in the boardrooms. We're not in there. We don't know what their strategy is right now. We can get ideas. We can generalize, right? And James is excellent at this because of his vast experience in these markets. But ultimately, in crypto, and with any asset, right, the first thing you're trading off is the chart, because the chart is reflective of sentiment, market sentiment, right? And this is the market sentiment for Bitcoin right now. And it's a dagger, it's a knife, and it's falling fast. So waiting game, plan for the scenarios, start thinking about your positions. What is a year going to look like in terms of short plays? You know, what altcoins are offering opportunities. We get a reversal at 73K and then trade them, right? And if you've got setups, which I've posted, which are now flipping, then trade them the opposite way, right? It's really straightforward, okay? And there's a reason why I'm not like buy this level or short this level, because the market changes from week to week, right? I can say this is a significant level, and if we hold it, we're going to get a bounce. And if we can't, it's a short play. Then this is the way you need to look at it, because the market changes very quickly, and we need to adapt. And if you can become an adaptable trader who's focusing on context, right? Just like we talked about Bitcoin dominance, right? Typically, under most conditions, Bitcoin dominance coming down is good for altcoins, but that's not the case right now. I'm not going to say it's the case, right? It's more reflective of what Bitcoin is doing. So a lot of things to juggle, right? Everyone's head should be spinning, right? But Bitcoin's had a good run, right? And what comes up must come down, and we'll always find the trading opportunities. And I guarantee you, on the back of James's experience and my knowledge and experience of trading crypto, whatever we're doing with Bitcoin, going up or down, we will have amazing trading opportunities for you regardless. So there's no issues there at all. But what I will say is a final little plug for the private group before we finish. So, and there's a little tip. I'll probably get into trouble for saying this. So we are in the process of putting together a crypto masterclass series, which will be part of Arcis's course offerings, which are obviously worth a lot of money, and there's a lot of time as invested. I spent years creating some of these courses, but as I'm getting them organized, they're available to everybody in the private group, right? And it's everything from lessons from reversal patterns to continuation patterns to the RSI to scaling in to divergence, volume, all of these things, all the way to the basics of the market cycle and how to draw a trend line. So if you're not in the private group yet, and you're thinking of entering, right, you could actually save yourself a lot of money, because you can get access to these crypto masterclasses very temporarily. They're only going to be there for a couple of months, I think, right? Get all of that information at a discounted rate, because essentially you're just paying for the group and you're not paying for the course, right? So you're entering a wonderful community which is covering a number of markets, whilst also having a lot of learning content for free at the moment. So we've got Black Friday stuff coming as well. So the next few weeks is a great opportunity to join the group, because you should be able to get a good offer when they have Black Friday sales. You should be able to get it at a discounted rate. You should also then get access to a lot of this course material, which is going to disappear very soon. So if you join the private group now, it's on the back of a Black Friday deals, it's a fantastic time to jump in. Now, obviously, any time of the year is a great time to join the group. It's a fantastic community, but over the next few weeks, it'll be great. If you are thinking about it, this is the time to pull the trigger. There's lots of materials available to you. So we'd love to have you. It's a fantastic community. I learn a lot, especially from James, but also from a lot of the other traders. So there's your little secret tip for today. And obviously, when I look, I'm a Grinch, right? I hate the fact that Black Friday exists anywhere outside of the United States, right? Because it's a Thanksgiving thing, right? But nonetheless, it is a good opportunity to give people access at a good rate. So we do really encourage you over the next few weeks to consider joining the private group, because it's a fantastic community. And there's like a lot of the charts, a couple of the charts I showed you today are from group members, right? So it's not just me, right? I can take a holiday, and there's still some good setups going around and lots of advice. And if the crypto market's down, you've got commodities and so forth to trade as well. So lots of cool stuff. Just have a look at this last final comment. But where is altcoin season? It can't be without altcoin season. Cannot end the bull. Well, I feel the same, but as we looked at this chart, I got it first time. I feel so good. When we look at this chart, there's optimism there, right? And if the crypto market is going to reposition itself, which of course it will, because it's different to what it was 4 years ago. It's a much more significant and institutionalized asset than it was. Then things are going to be different, right? Altcoins could just go to the toilet, right? And that could be the way, and we have to wait 18 months before we start getting some love. But I'm not 100% sure that's going to be the case. So don't worry too much about that, because again, as I said a moment ago, trade what you see. And even though Bitcoin is looking bearish, the altcoins are looking ready to rip. And how that is going to look and how that's going to work, considering Bitcoin is usually the one waving the wand, saying you now may go. Maybe maybe King Charles's days are numbered, right? And maybe it's not going to be about anything to do with that anymore, and Bitcoin will just be gold, digital gold, and then the rest of the market will find a new leader and have a nice, quiet revolution during what was traditionally a bear market year. So, but we'll keep you updated for sure. But thank you for everyone who's joined me today. Interesting conversation. Thanks for all your questions. I think we're all about pretty much have the same sort of questions on our mind and the same fears and thoughts and hopes and fears at the moment. And again, another reason to join the private group, so we can all be in a warm embrace as we try and figure out what's happening. But yes, anyway, thank you so much. I'm going to go sign off for the week because I'm absolutely knackered, if you excuse the pun. But yeah, thanks for the support. And if you haven't already watched Altcoin Gems, go and check it out. If anything, to help us with our battle with the algorithm, and leave us a comment. And if you don't want to leave a nice comment, leave a bad comment because it still helps. Paul, your ponytail sucks. There you go. Everyone go and put a comment on Altcoin Gems right now. Paul, your ponytail sucks, right? And honestly, I'll be very happy because 1, it does suck. And 2, it'll help the algo. So thanks so much. Anyway, have a great weekend, everybody. Just remember, take a step back, go for a walk, right? Don't try and force trades. And me and James, of course, James will be here over the weekend, of course, because James loves working weekends. So he'll be here on Sunday. So lots more content coming. And again, James has got a video out today. So make sure you check that out and support the channel. That's it for now. Take care for now. Have a great weekend.